Kainaka I whakairo I te kupu, tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai hara mai ki Tapatahi, te hōtaka matihiko a whakaata Māori. Ko tā mātou mahi, he whāngai atu I te tika me te pono o te kōrero kia koutou. Ka tira, I'm Wena Harawira. Welcome to Tapatahi, our new program that puts your questions to the newsmakers, shares Māori stories and perspectives, and keeps you informed about COVID-19. Tapatahi means to unite and is taken from the song Tu Tira Mai, composed by Wī Te Tauhuata. It's all about doing this together and getting through it together, so please let us know your questions or comments. Today on the show we have Dr. David Tipene and Dr. Rāhuitia to discuss whether whānau should wear masks in public. We get an update from Francis Tipene on Tipene Funerals on how they've adapted to new laws around tangihanga. We talk with Bobby Morris of Ruatoria Pies and why she decided to close shop to help whānau. Māori, particularly in rural areas, are affected by the COVID-19 ban on hunting and fishing. We talk with Joshua Kauta from the Ture Hunting Club and Kelly Klink on Aotea Great Barrier Island on their concerns about the ban. We also catch up with Dr. Sarah Jaja as she answers some of your burning questions regarding COVID-19. But first, here's what you need to know in 30 seconds. Well, it's day 14 in lockdown. There are 54 new cases, 32 are confirmed, 22 are probable. 241 have recovered in total. However, some good news, 65 people recovered in the past day, marking the first time in the pandemic where more people had recovered than tested positive. Our new total of cases is 1,160. 12 are in hospital, including 4 in ICU, and 1 is in critical condition. With nearly 43,000 who've been tested, 91 are confirmed as Māori and 40 as Pacifica. Well, Dr. Sarah Jaja is part of Te Ora Toa Primary Health Organisation in Porirua and is based at the Mungaven Medical Centre. She says one of the key priorities is making sure patients receive the right information, which is why she joins us now. Tēnā koe, Sarah.
Ata Māori, tēnā koe whai, ata Māori e te whānau. So,
COVID-19 symptoms aren't always a textbook case, so how do you know when you should go and be tested?
So the Ministry of Health has given guidelines regarding the symptoms that you should consider in terms of having a diagnosis of COVID-19. And as we know, the criteria has stretched quite markedly as time has progressed. So I think the main things are, if whānau, you have been in contact with someone who's returned from overseas, if you've had contact with someone who has been tested positive with having COVID, and then you develop symptoms of maybe a cough, shortness of breath. Some people have found that they have trouble with smell initially. With or without a fever, then it is possible that you have COVID. But remember, this is uncertain times for everybody, and we're all really worried about our cough and our breathing. And just remember that common things happen commonly. Yeah.
What about if you're too unwell to drive to a testing centre and you don't want to risk someone else in your bubble? What should you do?
So it's really important that if you're concerned about your symptoms, you ring your doctor or your nurse to get some advice about what might be going on. There are some really choice services around at the moment who actually have mobile healthcare professionals. So some can come to your whare and check you out there, but it's really important to see what your practice has in place at the moment. Yeah.
What about women who are hapu? How do they protect themselves?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to send my aroha out to all our māmas at the moment, because times have changed for them. The ability to have all their whānau present when they're giving birth isn't there at the moment. And so shout out to my sister Erin Gray, who's about to deliver shortly. The same thing goes for our hapu māma as for everybody else. Stay home, wash your hands, make sure that if you're coughing or sneezing, particularly around our hapu māma, you're coughing and sneezing into your elbow, wash your hands and stay home.
Now, every whānau, Sarah, has them. The person who wants to self-diagnose, play doctor themselves, and don't want to contact any health professional if they're feeling unwell. What's your advice to whānau?
Switch on your taringa's whānau. If you're unwell, you need to be seen. And even though we're not doing face-to-face as much as we'd like to, if you're really mawiri, we want to see you. We want to see you. We're here for you. So please switch on your taringa so your whānau can get you better. Another option is ringing your doctor or nurse who might know your whānau member well. They might be able to give some guidance on what to do. And if they're really unwell, call the ambulance. The ambulance is still operating.
Can the virus be passed on through kai?
Well, there isn't any evidence to prove that it can be passed on via kai at the moment. And when we think about the kai, the tummy bugs that we can get, those bugs are called bacteria. So the viruses are not known to survive very well in kai, but it is important to think about if you're going to the supermarket, making sure you wash your hands well after you get home, and particularly after packing away your kai as well.
We talked earlier, or you talked earlier, Sarah, about people who struggle to breathe, about coughing. What if people are confused about symptoms for COVID-19 and whether it's just asthma or maybe a bit of hay fever?
Well, because things are uncertain at the moment and our anxiety is rising about our symptoms. Think about things that happen commonly for you. If you're someone who gets asthma, if you're someone who gets hay fever, and your risk of getting the infection from anyone else is low, then it probably is one of those things. Struggling to breathe can be really scary. If it's really bad, you need to call the ambulance. But if it's affecting you in just a little way, then maybe calling the doctor or the nurse to check on things. In terms of our young people, that might be asthma. In terms of our older whanaunga, our kaumātua, it could be something to do with their heart or their lungs. So it's important, whānau, that if you're worried, you give us a call. We're here waiting.
Ka pai, Sarah. Tēnā koe, mō au kōrero. Great advice from Dr. Sarah Jaja. A contemporary artist based in the Hawke's Bay is trying to keep up with popular demand of her latest creation. During lockdown, Purewa McGregor has been designing and weaving face masks, and her main customers are men.
Ko te ringa tēnei, ko Purewa McGregor.
I actually came up with the mask because it was predominantly influenced by the pandemic happening and seeing a lot of Māori out there, you know, wearing bandanas, and I wanted something more for them to be able to, you know, be cool, be Māori and be protected.
He whānau rarana tōna, a nā ōna mātaurana Māori kua whai wāhia ki te hana I ēnei taona.
Absolutely a fashion accessory, but they're absolutely made to do the job. I take great pride in my mahi and I make sure my workspace is very clean, and I use organic cotton and polyester for the lining, which I sew and then hand stitch onto the mask. They have elastic around the ears, so it is a comfort fit. Definitely, and I've modelled against a mannequin, so all the masks are made to fit an average sized person. But I definitely have jigged a few of the sizes to fit the more man's place, because it has been men that have predominantly brought my masks.
He taona hira e hia whānuiti ana.
It's been really awesome, like really awesome. I've been super stoked with a range of different people really interested in wearing them. People that have brought them are Māori. A lot of them are essential workers who are wanting to be able to go to and from their workplace safely. But no, it's been awesome.
Lynette Amoroa, te ao Māori.
Maybe you can use them as placemats after lockdown. Anyway, one of the unresolved questions about COVID-19 is whether or not we should wear masks when we venture to the supermarket or pharmacy. The Ministry of Health's advice is that face masks aren't recommended for most people in the community unless they have an acute respiratory infection. At work, people who are unable to keep more than 1 metre from others should also use face masks. Māori researcher and academic Dr. Wena Harawira believes face masks are the way to go. Dr. David Tipene-Leach, on the other hand, believes people are better off sticking to good hygiene practices such as hand washing. Hoi no ka nui te mihi kia kōrua I tēnei ata.
Kia ora, whāia.
If I could start with you, Rawiri, why are you an advocate for face masks?
I think it's pretty simple. Face masks protect you from infection, not as much as hand washing, but they're an important auxiliary practice. Face masks, if you are infected but have not yet been tested and are unaware, then face masks protect others from you until such time as your infection is identified through testing. So that's one of the main thoughts behind wearing face masks in Asia. Another reason is we have the 1 metre social distancing rule. Recent research suggests that distance should probably be 2 metres. And one of the concerns around, and it's part of the debate about whether or not you should wear a face mask, is when you're in retail areas like supermarkets, which we all go to, not as often as we'd like, but we go to, that distance is actually difficult to maintain. People are going backwards and forwards across aisles. You bump into people going around the corner and things like that. And the 1 metre, which should be 2 metres, is compromised on a frequent basis, and it's important that we all protect each other when we're in those situations where it's difficult to maintain social distance.
David Tipene-Leach, you've heard what Rawiri has to say, but what's your view?
Well, I think it's important not to get into a he said situation, but I'm cognizant that the current advice is that we don't need to. If we have healthy people in an everyday situation who are observing social distancing in a country where we've got very low transmission, this is the reason why the Ministry of Health, along with the World Health Organization, and of course our local identities like Michelle Dickinson and Susie Wiles, are saying that normal, healthy people don't require masks.
So what should we focus on if masks aren't a priority, David?
The most important focuses for us are hand hygiene and physical distancing. Hand hygiene and physical distancing are the basis of protection, of personal protection from other people passing on respiratory infections, including COVID. And the people who should be wearing masks, and their particular types of masks, of course, are health workers and people taking care of people who are unwell, particularly those with COVID.
Rawiri Taunu, there's also an issue around disposability and hygiene around wearing face masks. What's your response to that?
Yes, I think there is, and one of the very good papers on the mask debate has been produced by a young professor. His name's Su Huang, and he's been quite explicit in saying that personal face masks are not the be-all and end-all of self-protection. They're not as good as medical face masks, but nevertheless, and one other point that he makes is that there's actually no research behind the idea that face masks don't help protect you. What he says is that they add an additional reinforcement of protection through good hygiene and those sorts of things, and that's proven to be effective by experience in Asian countries, other countries that either have face masks as mandatory or elective.
So why, Rawiri Taunu, is it particularly important for Māori to take whatever measures and precautions they can to protect themselves?
Well, it's imperative that we do that. At the moment, we're actually doing really, really well. daily briefing yesterday from Dr. Bloomfield, the the head of the Ministry of Health, was quite positive in a number of regards. The number of new cases we've had has now fallen in over 3 consecutive days, and that's very positive. Ultimately, we want to see it continue to drop, and that would be a really good sign. But nevertheless, we need to be vigilant because COVID is highly contagious, highly infectious, and we're not out of the woods yet. So things like staying inside your bubble, isolation, good social distancing, we really need to stick with those things. And for Māori, we need to get more people who need to be tested, we need to get them into testing. We don't know what the figures are in terms of the testing rate for Māori, but I have 2 samples of figures, one from the Taranaki DHB, which is just from one testing station, which showed 28% of their tests were of Māori. Another one is a 1-week snapshot from another DHB with a 10% Māori population. 1,000 tests, only 2.7% were Māori. So we really need to be vigorous in getting anyone who needs to be tested.
David Tipene-Leach, do you also have a view on why it's important, particularly important for Māori to take whatever precautions they can?
Yeah, I think it's important for us because we know from past history that communities of deprivation, in America communities of colour, and Indigenous communities, what we have is we have people who live close together, lots of people in the households, people who carry more chronic disease, and these are communities who are much more susceptible to an infectious disease that in close circumstances can sweep through a household. So we do need to be careful, and I think that all the warnings are out there that these our main tools, as Rawiri has just said, are around social distancing, around sticking into your bubbles, around isolation, around hand hygiene. Just getting back to the question of masks, of course, and there are 2 types of masks out there. There are N95s that are designed for health workers to stop them getting the infection of COVID patients. And then there are the surgical masks that are around that are designed for surgeons to stop infecting patients. It's important to know that those particular types of face masks are not designed to protect the wearer. They are designed to protect other people.
And so we have those ones that are designed not to protect the wearer, Rawiri. They're more available to the public, those ones that don't protect the wearer.
They're available, yes.
There's all kinds of degrees of face masks. I think the case is that medical grade masks are really awesome. Homemade ones are less awesome, but at either level they assist. And yes, I agree, and that's actually one of the main reasons we should wear masks, is to protect others. So if I could just point out, the World Health Organization and Ministry of Health, they follow WHO, World Health Organization, they say things like you shouldn't wear a face mask, say, until you've got a respiratory complaint, or you're looking after. I think on Friday or Saturday, the daily briefing, it was stated that only wear a face mask if you're looking after a sick whānau member. Now, the key thing here is... I apologise
for that sound. Let's go back to you, David Tipene-Leach. One of the things I've noticed about face masks, of course, is that people are constantly touching them or pulling them down, putting them back on again, which I suppose basically makes the whole hygiene practice redundant, because if you haven't washed your hands, you'll immediately, there's a case of cross-contamination happening there.
Absolutely, and I think that the best advice you can give about how to wear a mask is to look at the social media, things that Susie Wilkes She explains it really well about cross-contamination, about the need to wash frequently before putting it on, before taking them off, those sorts of things.
Is it, can I just go back to my point? The point is so the World Health Organization, Ministry of Health, their guidelines are don't wear a mask until, say, you're looking after a sick whānau member or you start showing signs of a respiratory complaint. Now, the World Health Organization guidelines on masks evolved out of the 2002-2003 SARS epidemic. Now, the World Health Organization had a good point at that time because, masks became ubiquitous and throughout Asia during that epidemic. But one of the things that became apparent is that SARS wasn't infectious until after a person showed symptoms. And so in Western countries, what they said is masks actually are pretty useless if they're worn by the public in that situation. Now, what Asian doctors and medical experts said was, well, early in the SARS epidemic, some medical staff were treating people without masks, and a lot of them got infected, both in Asia and, for example, in Canada, who had quite a severe outbreak. And when masks were introduced, that infection halted. So it did protect the medical professionals. Now, what Asian medical experts have done is extrapolate that to the general public. If it worked for doctors and nurses, then it's a necessary precaution for the public. And particularly because in the case of COVID, the key difference being is that COVID is infectious when people don't show symptoms, so asymptomatic, and people who are about to show symptoms become highly contagious in terms of being able to spread the disease 1 or 2 days before they actually show symptoms. So in that regard, the World Health Organization and our Ministry of Health regulations are actually behind the times. Now, if I could just say this one thing, is one thing that does become apparent when you read papers from both sides of the debate, there is a sense that in the West, people just don't like taking advice from medical experts in the East, in Asia. Now, I'm not saying that's our case. In our case, we're following the World Health Organization, but it certainly seems true in the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization head at the times of the SARS epidemic actually made quite a lot of very negative comments about Asia, Asians, and Asian medical experts. And I believe that we've inherited that a little bit.
Tēnā koe. Dr. David Tipene Leach, Dr. Rāhuitia Taonui, tēnā kōrua I tēnei ata. Thank you very much for your time. Ka pai nā kōrerotia nā tānata mō hio hio. Well, from the popular TV program, The Casketeers, Francis Tipene of Tipene Funerals is joining us now to give us an update. Kia ora rā e hoa. Kei te pēhea nā te haere a nā mahi.
Well, things have developed, and since John Whāngai and the Ministry of Health have brought out the updated guidelines, I'm pleased to say that things are going a little better for our people. Nevertheless, we're still not able to physically be together as a community to have tangihanga and to carry out what we know is normal in terms of the way in which we grieve. But it's a far better outcome than it was before, where we would arrive to a home or hospital and take the body away, and that was the last time the family really were able to see their loved one. So now we've got some new guidelines in place, whereas whānau from within the same bubble as the tūpapaku are allowed to come into the whare mate to a maximum of 10 people, and of course they're allowed to follow to the urupaha as well. So although still disheartening for a lot of people, I think the message about the COVID-19 is really taking effect and taking place in people's hearts and minds, and they're aware of that. And so things have been, much better than they were. So grateful, Rena, for technology. Those who can't be here present, they're able to, like what we're doing now, come in on live streaming and be part of that service there. I think the most important thing during this whole isolation period, and especially during tangihanga, is the connection. Te tangata ki te tangata a hangarau, a waha, but just not physically. And I think that makes a huge difference to the mourning process with regards to tangihanga. So I'm pleased with how things are going, and I think families are too.
Going back to the point about the work that you and your staff are doing, how difficult is it for you and your kaimahi emotionally to navigate this law that has been imposed on you and whānau? How difficult is it to be patient enough to educate whānau about those this ban and some of the practices around it?
Kia ora. It is very difficult, Wena, very difficult for us to be patient. I mean, we have a term called compassion fatigue. And it's not the compassion that we're lacking, but it's the patience. And because we're humans still, and we have to break down the guidelines to explain it to the whānau. And, hei te mutunga o te rā, ko huri mātou, e prihi mana a te ture. And so it's a balancing act, and doing that, explaining it to 5 family members per day, it does take its toll on you, but we know that it's for the better of everyone.
I have watched Casketeers. I have seen you, and you are very finicky. You one of your favourite phrases is to be on point. This must be driving you mad. I mean, having to chop and change, having to go with the flow, I suppose, with these practices and these changes. It's
turned my head into a spin and a nightmare at the moment, and moving in and out of everything. I mean, it's like we're playing musical tūpapaku, unfortunately, moving bodies here and there for every family to have their time. And it's not how we practice, it's not the normal run of the show. But every tūpapaku needs to be set in place, lipstick needs to be applied, hair needs to be straightened before the family come in. So, we're more like hairdressers and makeup artists for the time being, but eventually we will go back to how we were before. But right now, that is what it is. And as long as our whānau are okay with everything under the circumstances, which they have been, I'm okay for now, Wena.
What about the religious aspect of the ban? I mean, you work with a lot of ministers. Have they talked to you about the consequences of this ban on them and their work?
Most definitely. That was probably on the day one of lockdown, is when the phones were going flat-tack by all the ministers, ngā pau o ngā hāhi, both Māori mai, ngā minitano roto ngā mautere as well. And so it was about adapting. And so what we do is we ring them in if they have the technology to Zoom them or Skype, but mainly on the telephone, and we put it on speakerphone, kia rāngona heoi te whānau I te reo, karakia I te reo himene. So that is a big part, and a very difficult part. But once you hear a minister in a service, in a live stream service, it really sets the tone and you're at ease. We are, and so are the families, and that's all we could ever ask for.
Tēnā koe, Francis.
Tēnā.
Well, Māori, particularly in rural areas, are affected by the COVID-19 ban on hunting and fishing. In general, people seem to be towing the line, but there are some mixed responses, particularly to the ban on fishing. On Aotea Great Barrier Island, Kelly Clink of Ngāti Rehua, Ngāti Waiki Aotea has asked for the ban to be relaxed because they have no supermarket and the single dairy is a half-hour drive away. In Ture, near Opotiki, Ngātai placed a rāhui on the bush and sea even before lockdown began. Ngātai Kaumātua pig dog trainer and bookbinder Joshua Kauta is with me from Ture, and Kelly Clink joins us from Aotea Great Barrier Island. Tēnā kōrua I tēnei ata.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Well, first of all, can I start with you, Kelly? How important is fish and kaimoana as a food source for the islanders?
It's extremely important because of the lack of food coming out.
Can you bring me a big pillow,
we
please?
rely on it for everyday sustenance, and so with the COVID-19 coming into place, a lot of people on island have lost work, no money.
I'm sorry, I must apologise for the loss of sound there. But if I can just come back to you, Joshua. So in tōrere, that hunting ban was brought in. Why?
That's because our people are taking it very, very seriously. Normally when there's a rāhui placed on an iwi, it's to do with a death. But in our case here, we put the lockdown prior to the announcement by the government because it was mainly for the well-being of our old people. And here in tōrere, we have a very close relationship with our kararehe and our whāia, and we hold them paramount. So it was for that reason that we have decided to place the rāhui on our hunting and our fishing.
Of course, those whāia and kararehe must be dying for a feed of fish, dying for a feed of pork. Is there a lot of shopping done in people's freezers to sustain that?
Well, the government has assured us that we won't run out of food, and that just for the time being, while we're undergoing this lockdown, that will be looked after. Our hunting is really stopped as a means of respect. Now, in tōrere, I cannot speak for every iwi around the place, but in tōrere, we have a deep respect for our people. And when it comes to something as serious as what is happening to us now, we make sure that our people are paramount, the well-being of our people, regardless. I'm a keen hunter and I'm a keen fisherman, but I'm prepared to do the rāhui as well. It's something that we have towards our people.
What about the affordability, though, Joshua, of store-bought food? It's way higher, especially with you guys having to go in from tōrere to Opotiki to buy food. Hunting and fishing was a way of supplementing people's diets, people's cupboards, or filling people's cupboards. What's happened since the rāhui?
Well, here at tōrere, our young women particularly are going out and doing the shopping for the older people. And it's something that we regard as very important. And our women, I must say, are very, very helpful in this area. They're looking after the older ones.
How do you monitor people sticking to the rules of the ban, of the hunting and fishing ban?
Well, we rely mainly on each other. And I think when it comes to a rāhui, you will find that the people here, the ones, when I put the lockdown on our people, the majority are all in favor of it because of their love for the old people. You will get a minority of people, a few people that won't go along with it or don't want to go along with it, but I find that those people were never really born and bred here. They were raised somewhere else, and they're unaware or not familiar with our tikanga. So, I sympathise for those people because they're in the dark a bit, and they're here because their grandmother lived here once upon a time, and they've just come from wherever they've come, totally oblivious to the way we do things here in tōrere.
As a pig dog trainer, you've either got a lot of dogs there to train during lockdown. Is that the case?
No, when I knew that the lockdown was coming on us, I asked people not to send dogs because of the lockdown. And I don't want to be a stranger with everybody's dogs throughout the lockdown. So I've asked people not to send them at this time.
How about the pigs themselves? Are you able to give them a run up in the hills?
Yes, the pigs are fine. In fact, it's good for them to have a break. And so the same is with our ngahere. Look, I tell people the pigs and the deer are not going to run away throughout this lockdown. One of the other reasons why we did this too, and why we've taken this very seriously, is that a lot of our ngai whakangau live away from here, and they're not able to come down to do any hunting anyway. So as a mark of respect, we also refrain from taking the kai from the bush when our other whakangau are unable to do it.
Okay, well, let's go back now to Kelly Clink. We have fixed up our audio issues, hopefully. And Kelly, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Well, first of all, can you just explain again, why do you want the ban on fishing and hunting relaxed for islanders on Aotea Great Barrier Island?
Really, it's the survival. It's a way of, as we said before, supplementing a food source, and it's what we rely on. We live by water. Food is, really expensive out here. $6 for a loaf of bread, small thing of cheese, $9. So, we need to, it's probably safer for us to be out on the water than to go to a supermarket.
Good point. What about the there are issues, of course, around safety, health and safety, the safety of boaties and people diving and people fishing. What's your response to those concerns?
If you look at the stats, not many of the locals have been caught up or had to be rescued. That they know the water. We know the water. We know how and when is the appropriate time to go out on the water.
Now, I understand that the island was inundated with boaties from the mainland. Are you guys still having that problem?
We a huge problem. Yesterday we had 2 launches out. The one day a week we get a freight boat in. One boat had 14 banana boxes of groceries. That space could have been used for community or hapu to bring their food in, but it was taken up by boaties who are coming here for day trips. And they're coming ashore.
So how do you police that? Is it the islanders that police themselves?
Well, by the looks, the police don't seem to have enough authority to stay off the island. We need to see some policies put in place that looking after the people here. We're on the high risk threshold out here. We are, many of the community are aged. So I asked that no visitors come out to the island, that we just lock it down, but we have not been able to control it with the boaties coming out.
Do you think the islanders are likely to band together to go and to form its own island checkpoint or control point to stop people from outside coming onto the island?
I was talking to one of our whāia here on the island yesterday about implementing something like that we need to step up now. Otherwise, if we get COVID-19 here on the island, it's going to have a devastating impact on the community. We only have one medical centre, and so the only way to get to hospital is via helicopter.
Well, Kelly Clink, I have to end that interview there, but all the very best. Tēnā koe Joshua Kauta also for your kōrero, for joining us this morning. Tēnā kōrua.
Yeah, kia ora. Kia ora.
Well, the government has invested billions of dollars into the economy to help cushion the blow of COVID-19 for New Zealand businesses and workers. Joining me now is Bobby Morris from Rāhuitia pies, which are world famous in New Zealand, of course. Tēnā koe, Bobby.
Kia ora.
How's it going over there in Ruatoria?
Yeah, not too bad actually. Well, today the weather's actually quite a beautiful day today. So, but you know, with just because we're not making pies, it doesn't mean you're not busy. So,
That's right.
I'm a part of our Ruatoria COVID-19 response group. So, been busy helping our whānau pack up kai packs for our kaumātua pakeke. We started that last week, and it's been really great. It's been a great response.
Getting back to your business, what impact has the virus had on you and your staff?
Yes. Well, as I was saying on Monday, my husband and I, we made the decision ourselves to actually shut up shop. And really that was because of how vulnerable we are on the coast, you know, and because we go out of the coast to deliver pies, we deliver ourselves to it was that feel of bringing it back home, you know, you just don't know, and so we just made the decision, no, we'll shut up shop. But then, you know, after that we got rung by our butcher who we get our meat from, and then they had to shut up shop because they're not essential either, you know, so, and it's been quite a hard case because some whānau said to us, hey, you should be still making pies. I said, well, it's not actually our essential food. Well, not really anyway, and to some whānau it is an essential food, so it's been quite a hard case. But yeah, at the moment, no, we're not making any pies.
Are you eligible for wage subsidies from the government or any other support from the government?
We are just in the processes now of applying for the wage subsidy. So, you know, there was a couple of things we had to get. You have to get consent from your staff that you can hand over information to MSD and all of that sort of stuff. So we're just going through the process now of dealing with that. And honestly, it will be a great help because we don't have cash coming in now. So, you know, we've still got bills to pay, all of that sort of stuff. So that would help tremendously, actually.
Is it as bad as the situation in 2008 when the GFC hit you, or was it worse?
Yeah, no. Well, see, that's I think that in that time you knew it was going to come back up. So at this time it's a bit different, I think, because you can't actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know how it's going to develop and whether even, you know, the lockdown might change in levels, but even then, how is that going to affect our business as in our process? Extra compliance might end up coming down on us. You know, all these, and so it's still uncertain. You can't quite see that picture. So we're sort of like going through, I suppose it's just taking it as it comes. And see, in 2008, we were lucky we had whānau around us that were available to come in and help us out. This time, we still have whānau, but then because you can't, you know, it's about these bubbles and all of that sort of stuff. So really, it'll be, it's really up to my husband and I and our kids, I suppose. We've got 3 children at home. 2 of them are still at, you know, in high school, and but all our kids, we have 5 kids. They've all worked at our shop. They know it inside out. Yeah, so it's just, I think, the difference between now and back in 2008, you don't know what's going to come in the near future.
Oh, Bobby, all the best to you, and I hope the future will look a lot brighter for you, and I hope you come up with some better, more beautiful pies. Anyway. I know that Francis Tipene probably wants one of your pies. I certainly do anyway. But tēnā koe, thank you for your time.
Oh, kia ora.
Now, don't forget, whānau, we've launched a competition where you could win $1,000. All you need to do is create a 5-minute video that shows the motu what you're doing during lockdown. And of course, it must be fun. Whānau fun. All the details are on our Facebook page or MāoriTelevision.com. We'll announce the winner at the end of lockdown, around about the 24th, 25th of April, I think. Koina a Tapatahi mo tēnei rā, kia tau iho nā manaakitana a te wāhinaro kia tātou katoa, a kia hau maru te noho. Haiku nā mo tēnei wā.